Well, Leigh, it is a pleasure to be here. It's so fun for me. We got to know each other. I mean, it's got to be over 10 years ago when we were in Lake Powell. And it's so funny because Tyler, now your husband, works with me and is one of my closest friends. And you just never know. And we met on a boat. It was a couple's trip. And the funny part about that is I weaseled my way on. I was the only single guy. But I got a date, and I just wanted to meet cool people. I knew that, Jerem Dastrup was throwing the event, and I knew he'd have sharp people, and some of my best friends to this day were on that boat that day. So it's fun to watch your guys' journey. You guys had just started. You're the founder and owner of Amara Day Spa, and you guys just opened your second location. You've been in business
2 years ago up there.
You've been in business total for how long now?
Since 2004, so 14 years.
Wow, 14 years. And you have how many employees now?
About 115.
115.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Well, your story is extraordinary. Anybody that's been to Amara Day Spa knows how good of a job you guys do over there. I love to go get my massages and go buy stuff at the boutique and everything else. But I want to really get your story because the fascinating thing, I mean, 14 years ago, you look like you're 30 right now. So you started it when you were in junior high school.
That's why we love you, Jimmy. Keep them coming.
But let's talk a little bit about, where you are now. A lot of people are going to see that and be like, wow, look at the success. But I can't tell you, you guys, your office is right below, or your store is right below where my old office was. And I can't name how many times I would go by the office at night, and 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night sometimes you guys were there, your cars were outside, hustling, building that business. So I really want to get into the in-depth story of kind of how you guys built this amazing spa salon.
Let's do it.
All right. So back up a little bit. How did you get into the business? Was it something when you were younger you always wanted to do, or when did you know, okay, that's what I want to do with my life?
You know what? I think that life just happens as you go along the journey, but if you look back and reflect, now I see all the pieces from junior high to high school and on where I love fashion and beauty and just making people feel amazing. And in high school, junior high, I always loved the underdog. I always felt like I wanted to make the person that, no one talked to have a friend, all the while I was hanging out with the popular kids or the fun ones or whatever. And so I think I always just had an innate sense for that, as well as I really did love fashion. Like, I saved up all my money to buy my first pair of turquoise Girbauds because they were the cool thing and I just wanted them, and most people listening might not even know what those are. But
oh, Girbauds were where it was. Your first pair of Girbauds, that's something you don't. I was at the state fair. They were probably fake. It was like a flea market. But you know what? They were real to me. And that was my first pair of Girbauds. I was finally a cool kid. It's probably like third grade. But well, that's kind of cool. So you always had this feeling that just you really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
And so then as you graduate high school, did you go to college, or when did you decide to go into this?
So I graduated when I was 17, and I wanted to go to cosmetology school because the trade I am now, I'm a Master Esthetician by trade. That was not a profession or one that I knew about, but cosmetology was hair school, right? And so I told my dad, and he thought I was nuts. A lot of parents maybe don't love the beauty industry because of the stigma behind it, or they think that that's like a cop-out or an easy way out or for the lazy kid or whatever. But I think my dad just really wanted to ensure my success. He was a hard worker, and I think he just wanted to make sure I was choosing the right profession. So he said, if you'll go to a semester of college first, then I will help you pay for half of cosmetology school. So I was like, all right, college can't be bad. It'll probably be fun. Lots of good times, friends, and you always learn something. And so I started at UVU. I went to one semester, had a great time. And then during that semester, I had a girlfriend that started to work at this brand new aesthetic school that was opening up. And it was going to be the first class to go to school. And so she just said, oh my gosh, this is what you should do. Come tour the school. So I took my dad, we toured it, I fell in love with it. He and most everybody else didn't know what an esthetician was. They would call it like an anesthesiologist, or like that word just didn't exist 20 years ago when I went to school. And so anyways, he had promised that if I went to a semester of college, he'd help me pay. So he kept his promise, and I went to school, and there was just 2 other girls in my class. We were the first in Utah County to ever go to school in Utah County.
Wow, just the 3 of you.
Just the 3 of us.
And so you go through that. And it's kind of funny to me because to get a real estate license, you go for 120 hours and you take a test. It's like a big deal to help somebody make sure you don't botch their house deal, right?
Yep.
And to be an esthetician or to be go through beauty schools, how many hours was it to go through that school?
So when I went, it was 600 hours, which is crazy. But the laws of have changed, thankfully.
Oh,
I still think they could even increase because of the things that we do, the nature of the things that we do. But so you're 1,200 hours now.
Wow.
But yeah, so 600 hours.
Wow, that is so much time of school.
It is not for
It's
our
not.
industry. There needs to be more.
Well,
we touch people and
that's true.
take
See,
care of
in my
things.
life, I'm like, okay, I wish they made the barrier to become a real estate agent so much higher. Because I think that we'd get a lot more respect as an industry if we didn't have all the, everybody's got a brother-in-law who's been a mortgage lender, he's done insurance, he's sold cars, he's done all these things. Now he's trying real estate. And a lot of realtors, unfortunately, I think give the industry that name. So I've said for years, they should either up the yearly dues or up the amount of education. Because really, I mean, the thought of 120 hours, most realtors, I look back now at when I was a new agent versus me now, and oh my gosh, nobody should have ever used me. Thank you for those of you that did, but nobody should have ever hired me when I was new.
No one should have ever allowed me to wax their eyebrows when I graduated school.
Well, that's pretty awesome. And so you were working there, and then I guess you guys had, the owners had some issues or something, and...
Yeah, so I graduated school, I got a job at a little place in Orem. Most places didn't have a room for aesthetics, so there was one that I found that had a little back room, teeny tiny, and I got a job there right out of aesthetic school. I was so excited, young, eager, hungry, and I worked there for almost 5 years, and 4 of those years I was managing, which also is hilarious because I think thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to make a million mistakes.
Yeah, what a blessing on somebody else's business.
Yes,
right,
they were so kind and generous to trust me, and they must have saw something in me, but that was a really great opportunity for me. But like most salons in the industry, there are only 5% of salons in the nation that are actually profitable. 15% cash flow, 80% close their doors within 3 years. So it's a really tough business to be in. And so they found themselves in that space where they had other day jobs. None of them were in our profession. And so this was like their side gig that was supposed to be glamorous and fun and not take a ton of time, but it does take a ton of time. So they were at a crossroads where they needed to sell or close down. And so...
How old were you this time?
24.
You're 24, okay. And so you've been there for a couple of years, you're 24, and then so...
Yeah. So then I had established an amazing clientele. At that time, being 24, I, in my mind, felt like I was crushing it. I just felt like I was on the top of the world and making so much more money than my friends, but loving my job. I worked all the time because it was just an amazing career to be in. And so when I came to that crossroads, there still was not very many salons that had a spa room for an esthetician. And so we had to figure out what to do. And at that time, I'd been married just for about a year or 6 months. I don't know. Good thing Tyler trusts me a lot. And we had just bought a home in Orem in the ghettos, but it was a home that had an accessory apartment. So we started to look at like the city laws and the things that we would need to do to possibly maybe, instead of rent out that basement, turn it into the salon. And so it had all the requirements. It had a separate entrance, separate address, separate meters, separate driveway. We were able to get our business permit, health code permits, all the things that you need to run a legit home business. And so we ended up doing that because there really wasn't anywhere for me to go. And I would have gone somewhere because I thrive around people. I thrive around being educated by others. But that was what we had. So we created a name. We bought dollar fabric at Walmart to make curtains. Like we put clothes on the little mini kitchen in the apartment.
So when you first started, it was just in your basement apartment?
Basement apartment.
And how'd you come up with the name Amara?
Well, we couldn't find a name that wasn't already taken, and so my sisters were helping me, and one of my sisters had a baby name book that had names from all across the world that meant something. So I was trying to find something with meaning, but that had an A because you wanted to be an A in the phone book. And so back then we used phone books, right? Yep. And so she called me one day and she was just like, hey, there's all these names in this like weird African language, but there's like Amara and this and that, and they mean beauty. And so I was like, Amara, I like it. It starts with an A. It kind of has a catch to it. And I wasn't thinking ahead like we were going to grow this big booming spa, but I was like, yeah, I like it.
So it wasn't like that big of a decision in the moment.
Yeah, it was
just,
just,
not like you had to run out and grab the domain
book.
and everything.
Yeah, so yeah, I didn't have a website or anything, so it just was like, all right, so we named it Amara.
Wow, and so you started in your business. So at what point did you realize, okay, I'm going to grow this thing, we've got something going here, and we go to make it bigger?
Well, again, reflecting back, I've always grown everything that I touched my hands on. I just thrive on progressing and doing hard things and change and those kinds of things. So I don't know when I realized, but I just kept going. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. We should add this. We should do this. We should do this. And 2 years later, we were booming out of that basement. And so we built a home in Linden that we thought, oh, this house is way bigger. The basement's like 2,000 square feet. We could have 10 employees in here. This would be amazing. So we did that. And then we grew out of that in 2 more years.
By the way, I want to back up a little bit because you said the stat, 80% of them fell within 3 years. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And only 5% are profitable?
Yep.
And you're 24 years old. And you're like, okay, there's a 5% chance I make any money at this.
Oh, well, I didn't know that back then. I did not know those stats back then.
I'm like,
I was doing what every other esthetician stylist does. Like, this will be the greatest idea to open my own business, my own salon business.
Well, so you guys move into the new, larger place in Linden, and you kept running it out of your house then?
Yeah, we did. We built that home with it in mind. So again, separate entrance, separate driveway. We actually had parking stalls in the driveway. Our driveway was massive. We had 8 parking stalls in the driveway, separate entrance. Again, doing everything. That's something I really believe in, is doing everything by the book and ethically in the way that you should do it. And so I think that also helped us be successful because we did not cut corners and we didn't try to do things shady or try to make more money because we didn't want to pay taxes or those kinds of things. That happens a lot in our industry.
Oh, it happens so much in every industry. In real estate, there's so many agents that got themselves in trouble. And I have my business partner, Chris, that kind of runs all my paperwork. Yeah. I just told him from day one, I said, listen, let's just do this the right way. Yep. Let's never question. If there's something in this deal that somebody should know, let's just make sure they know. And I've stayed out of trouble. I got in trouble one time. I got sent to the board for a client had already signed with someone else and I didn't know. But other than that, I've literally never once had a single issue. And my broker says, we just don't worry about Jimmy. We just know he's going to do it the right way. And it's just so much easier, right? You don't have to worry about who did I tell this to? What did I actually do? And so there's a lot of honor in that. And I think that karma in general rewards you when you do it the right way.
I think so too. And I think people notice. I think our guests noticed that we, even in the basement, ran a professional business and that, we had our business license hanging and that we had a receptionist right when you walked in the door and everything that it took to be professional. We had retail product shelves and we had employees that, all had legit licenses and understood the high expectations that we had, even in the basement. And
so as you continue to grow, how quickly did it grow into, because again, today you have 115 employees, but I mean, how many years were you in that 10 employee area and when did you guys kind of get your next little bump in your business?
Yeah, great question. So that very, very first house, there was 3 of us, me, my sister, and a massage therapist. Then the next house in Linden, we grew to 10 of us. We were still just spa services and then a nurse that did Botox and stuff like that. And then with 10, you can imagine if we're all seeing guests and stuff, that our parking lot was running down the street and we needed to move. Neighbors didn't love that so much, even though they were so nice. And then we opened in 2009 in our Orem location, but we were just half the size. So we had about 35 employees to start off there. So we did mass hiring from 10 to 35 to open overnight, the doors there. And then that grew to about 45 and we were kind of busting at the seams. And so then in 2012, we bought the unit next to us and added another 3,000 square feet. So we're about 6,200 square feet there. And then we kind of were busting at the seams and Lehigh was kind of booming. And one day we just drove by on that, Alpine Highway. And I just told Ty, I was like, yep, this is where we're going to go. We're going to do an Amara here. He thought I was nuts as usual, which he
Well, and what was funny is you guys had just become profitable, really, right? I mean, I remember talking to Tyler and when I first met you guys and he's like, no, I mean, we haven't made any money yet, but it's eventually, that's the plan. And I was like, wait, you guys have been in business a long time. He's like, well, we just pump everything back into the business.
Oh, totally.
And it just boggled my mind at the time. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool, but man, they're really going for this because you guys just poured every dollar back into the business, you said, expanding and growing and doing the different things.
Yeah.
And so
we still do that.
Yes,
as you should. That's what you do to grow, right?
You know what? Exactly. It's kind of funny. Everyone's like, I want to be a business owner. And I'm like, well, there's some things you should know. You don't exactly just every dollar that comes in the company goes in your pocket. Right?
Yeah, most don't.
And so you guys expanded to Lehigh. How long ago did you?
2016. So it's been exactly 2 years next month in September. So it's been amazing.
So did you ever think that you guys would be this top salon and have as many people working with you as you do now when you first started out and you first started doing this?
No way. I didn't think that way. I think what drives me is all that I really think is how can I make sure that we are just the very best guest experience and place for our employees to work? And that's what it was when we were little. And so that's what keeps driving me. And so as we keep doing things, people ask that question, like, did you ever think? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And I sometimes forget that that's what we've accomplished. I really, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool that we're able to support 115 women and a couple of males, but we're predominantly women, and they can provide for their families, and so many of them, you know, provide for their entire family, whether their husbands are in school or maybe their husbands have lost jobs, or they're single women, and they can make, you know, up to 6 figures and, you know, part-time work, and it is incredible to be able to do that for our community and serve our guests like that.
I mean, you've been able to help so many women get in this job, get, you know, their careers going, and just really remarkable things for over 115, mostly women. I mean, it's a women-based business. But do you have an example, maybe one in particular, where you saw somebody where it was able to help and change their life? Because that's the rewarding part of being a business owner, right? Is seeing those changes in people.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation today with actually one of them who has worked for us for a very long time. So we've been able to see them go from a very young age to being a mother of multiple children, and she's been able to, over the years through hard times, provide for her family single-handedly, and they are able to own a home and cars, and like you would never know that it was her providing. And as well today, our conversation was centered around how grateful she is for this job and what it's done for her and what it's taught her. And just yesterday we had a guest come in, and we were crying with this guest because she found out she had cancer a little while ago. We brought her in and did all these free services for her because we just love her. She's one of our friends and whatnot. And then yesterday she let us both know when she came in for her appointment that another guest of ours that she had sent to us years ago that's been coming, that had battled with cancer but had been in remission, actually just suddenly passed away yesterday. And we were just crying and having such an emotional moment. But for us, like, and I'm going to get teary-eyed. It's just so cool to be able to be there. Most of the time our conversations are always like positive and uplifting, but when you build those relationships, this certain employee that was, you know, talking with me about this guest that we were both able to serve and see over the years, and how it impacts us as service providers and what it does to help us realize that you never know what people are going through. You always assume positive intent. That's one of my favorite phrases of, you just don't know if the person that's mad at the checkout line, like maybe their father just passed away, or, you know, maybe they've got a drug addiction, or maybe they, you know, in our case right now we're going through, you know, my brother passed away from a drug addiction and his kids just got taken away from the state, and like there's big stuff happening in our family and no one would ever know like what's going on in your life. And so for us today, our conversation was centered around like how it doesn't only help monetarily, like which has helped her be able to provide for her family. It doesn't only help you know, give you a job and friends that you love to work with, but it also gives you a deeper understanding of what life's all about, because you talk to so many amazing people every day when you're in the service industry.
Well, yeah, and you guys have a unique ability in that particular industry where you connect every single day. I mean, you're sitting with people for 20 minutes to several hours, and you really have that human connection. It's a really cool part of your line of work. People, I mean, they'll talk to their hairdresser more than they talk to their therapist. Because they're just get going. And
and it's like counseling on both sides while you're having fun and you feel beautiful, right? Like we get to touch people and make them feel beautiful and make them feel better about themselves. And I think that is one of the most, I mean, that's why we all do what we do in our company particularly. Like all of my team is so amazing and they care about people so much and they just want to make them feel better. And it's through the services we offer that we get to touch and talk and make them have a better day today than they did yesterday. Yeah,
I think there's a reason that women love so much the spa days, right? Because you walk out of there feeling so good and you feel, you know, prettier. And unfortunately in our society there's so much emphasis on beauty and those different things and attraction and all that. And so I think it really is kind of cool. One of my guests that I interviewed, he's a plastic surgeon.
Absolutely.
And he says, I get as much fulfillment out of helping somebody with a cosmetic nose job or a boob job or something like that, or a tummy tuck, as I do out of helping somebody with a cleft lip, or maybe, you know, if their hand's been mangled, because I know what that does for them with their emotions and what that does for their confidence and things like that.
They can show up to life better. And if everybody in the world shows up to life better, the world elevates, life elevates, families elevate relationships, like, and that's what it's all about. If each of our industries can just help everybody to feel better about themselves and to show up a little differently than they may have before they came to see you for whatever it is, that even houses, right? Like, you help someone with one of the biggest purchases of their life, and I watch it with just Tyler, because, you know, he works with you, and just how amazing that is for somebody to be able to accomplish that, to accomplish buying a home, and what that means for them and their family, and they show up to life a little differently once they accomplish that huge goal, right? And you get to be a part of that, and that is amazing and unique.
Yeah, I try to always remember, you know, to the client, I'll say to them, hey, if I'm going too fast or too slow, or if I'm not doing something, I know that this is, to them, it's such a huge thing, and it's such an important decision. I always try to remember with every single client, I think to myself, this is literally where their kids are going to play. This is where they're going to make their childhood memories. I have to be on my game. I have to make sure I know this neighborhood is right for them. And it really is, you take a lot of pride, and it's really fun to watch now that I've been in the business for 14 years. I see people that have become best friends in neighborhoods where I sold them homes and things like that. It's just really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's very, very exciting. Well, a lot of people, again, you know, are going to see the success that you guys are having and see where you're at. Again, I know the struggle to get there and how much effort was put into that, which also brings a lot of joy, right? Because you had to work so hard. But was there ever a time that maybe you'd be able to share where maybe you didn't think you guys were going to make it?
Yeah, like young in my career, every other year I'd come home crying and asking Ty, why do I do this? And, you know, it's an emotional industry. It's an emotional business. There's, you know, always a lot of opinions from employees and guests and all those kinds of things. And so sometimes there are just times where I think every business owner feels overwhelmed or maybe not confident in their abilities to lead a team. But as I look back, each of those experiences are really what refines you and helps you to continue to become that leader and owner. And, you know, none of us are perfect, but you progress and you grow. And so I'm so glad I did not like quit for reals, and that I could go home and like cry to somebody and then go back and just, you know, have my A game on.
Yeah, they say it's the day after the day of the breakdown, how you show up is who you are. It's like, because most people, like, we all have like our days where we're just like, I am just not going to deal with this. And then the next day, sometimes you're still off. But the day after that, that's the day that either you get back on the saddle or you stay down.
You show up or you're done. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that's unique to your situation is you guys are raising your kids. You guys have your family situation, and you are a hardworking woman here in Utah, which isn't always done without a little bit of criticism. Have you had people like kind of maybe ask like, well, how does she, like, why does she do that if she's raising a family? And how have you been able to overcome the stigma that, you know, women aren't supposed to own a company and put in all these hard hours? Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't know if I personally have ever felt judged for it, because I get to see women and they loved me. Like, they thought it was great. But I do know that is something that women struggle with, because so many of my guests would talk to me about like the things that they wanted to accomplish and achieve, and how they felt like sometimes for them, and this isn't for everybody, but for them, you know, being just a stay-at-home mom wasn't fulfilling them, and they had bigger dreams, but they felt that they had to do that because of the culture. They had to do that because that's what their husband was telling them, because he wanted to be the breadwinner. And my advice to them always was, I would give them my personal experience. And for me, I love what I do. I am super passionate about it. I also love being a mom. I love my 4 kids more than anything. And so for me, working with passion helps me to be an amazing mom. And I feel like my kids get such a better me when I am with them, because I'm fulfilling other needs and dreams, and my personality needs to drive something and progress. And the things that I learned from work have been so incredible, from just talking to other moms and other women and other business owners, that I get to take home to my kids. So I feel like not one bit are my kids suffering. In fact, I think that they have better opportunities and maybe better, I don't know, conversations and life coaching from Tyler and I because we work.
Well, I think what you said there that I loved is that it allows you to show up in a way where you're being your best for your kids. Yep. I think that we're all wired different. Some people are wired to be stay-at-home moms, and
Absolutely.
That is the perfect thing for them. But other women, like the ones that you kind of talked about, right? And men and women, frankly, like we're all wired for certain things. And I just tell people, I say, look, when you show up lit up because of what you're doing, you're going to show up better for everybody else in your life. So you kind of just have to look inside and say, am I truly happy with the way that this is going? And if it's not, kill the expectation of your husband, or you kill the expectation of your family, or whoever it might be that thinks you should do it a certain way, and go with whatever feels authentic to you. And
Absolutely.
People are going to, I think the reason why you probably haven't seen it much is people can tell that you really are passionate about this, and you're lit up, and you're happy doing it. So of course they're not. I mean, they'd look stupid to come and say like, "Why are you doing that?" You know. It's
well,
like,
they see us with our kids, and my husband coaches their teams, and we show up for our kids, right? Like we give quality time. It's not about quantity, but we give them plenty of quality time, and I think that's important. And I think everybody is wired differently, and that's the advice I'd give is like, what do you need? Like how do you fulfill your basic human needs and love, connection, significance, whatever those things are. And if it's not being fulfilled, then you're probably not showing up in the right way. So you've got to figure that out. But if staying at home, one of my sisters works for me and is programmed like me. One is not. She's a stay-at-home mom. And me and my other sister always joke, like, she's the best dang stay-at-home mom I've ever met. And she's programmed for that. And she does an amazing job and would not have it any other way. And I think, like, she figured that out. So I'm grateful that we all in our family figured it out, because I think we all have incredible families and we each operate differently, and that's okay.
Yeah, I even look at like your husband Tyler and my brother Dale. We all work together here, and it's like I watch how much effort they put into like coaching their kids. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I am not wired for that. Like I'm not patient enough. I'm not. But you know what? I'm okay.
That's fine.
And they're okay. Yeah. And it's all okay, but it's finding what really lights you up and what helps you feel fulfilled is what you should go out and pursue. And I think too many people, when they fall into the stigma of like what life's supposed to look like, or what maybe their job's supposed to look like. And so it's cool when you can see people that really have found what's their purpose, what they really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Well, from here, I mean, do you want to expand this even bigger? Is that the next step for you, or where do you see? I mean, where's Leigh in 5 years from now?
Do you know what? Yes, I think it's been amazing. I've been an esthetician for almost 20 years, and I think I'm at this place in life where my kids are, my baby's 4 years old, and my kids are growing up, and I've learned and refined and even just figured out what I'm capable of doing. Even just opening Lehigh was amazing, because it helped me realize, like, I really am capable of anything, and I have people all around me that support me, an amazing team, amazing leadership.
How did you learn all the skills that you needed to open a second franchise and do all this? I mean, to so much. I know how much went into it all. Where did you learn? Did that just come, or do you have things that you do, mentors or books, or what? How did you?
Well, I do listen to a lot of books, read a lot of books. I have hired a mentor as of late that I work with every week, and I think that that's been really important for me as well. And it's all been like a progression. So I do think that all of those things, surrounding yourself with other successful people, business owners, books, podcasts such as this, right? And then having a mentor that helps to mentor you is really important. But I also think for me, I am so willing to take a leap of faith, and I love money. I love to spend money. I love vacations. I love those things, but money is never my first thought ever. My first thought is always just, what else could I do? How else could I push myself? And I just have a whole lot of faith that I can make anything work. So I hope that keeps working. And so I feel like I just push through and find a way to make it work. And there are a lot of mistakes that way. I know, I've learned that too, but I don't think I'd have it any other way, because that's what makes the magic happen. And you learn a whole lot when you just dive in head first and you're not hesitant, and you just say, this is what my intuition is telling me I need to do. Go for it, and don't hesitate.
Oh, that's great. Are you able to manage that way, where like how do you manage your employees when mistakes are made, for example? Do you have like an open mistake policy, or how do you guys, because obviously you want to avoid them, but at the same time, how do you manage and help people have that same experience?
Yeah. Do you know what we tell everybody? Because there's a lot of mistakes that you could make in our industry, right? You could wax off someone's eyebrow. You could do a lot worse than that. Yeah. And I just tell everyone, I say, hey, listen, everyone's going to make mistakes, and I hope that you do, and you're going to learn so much from those. So I want you to know that it's okay to make mistakes within our company. What I want you to know is that once you make a mistake, I need you to learn from it, and you can't make that mistake again. And when you make a mistake, let's talk about it and let's learn from it, and let's ask a lot of questions to make sure that we know how to proceed from there. I think that I've learned a lot about how to ask better questions and ask the right questions, and two of my favorite ways to start a question is, how and what. because that always brings about a lot of just conversation without what did you do wrong, right? Or, what the heck is going on? But just, okay, so, what can we learn from this? And, how do you think that happened versus what could happen differently? And how do we get around this? How do we avoid that? Or, all of those kinds of things so that people don't feel attacked. And I'm a very red personality, so I have come in hot a lot of my years, and that's a lot of my learning too, is learning how to be a leader that can drive and use my red personality for the good.
Well, I'm the same way. I have to be careful. Like, to me, I just want it done. I'm not necessarily, your feelings aren't the first thing on my mind. I've learned to be more empathetic and try to, I have a relationship coach, and she always says women want to be supported, guys want to be challenged. So stop challenging women. Like, support them. This is a huge step for me in my life I learned a few years ago. Because I'm just like, hey, just get it done. Like, just go do it. But I've learned, like, they actually need to be supported right now, not challenged again, right? When people sometimes. And so I've actually seen that with you. I feel like you're a softer, better version of your own self as opposed to maybe 5 or 6, 7 years ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Amen.
But isn't that good though that you've been able to, but you've seeked out mentors and you've tried to understand situations so that you can grow as a person and show up as a better leader to your employees and everybody else.
Well, and I think whenever you have a situation, a problem, or a mistake, you got to look in the mirror, and I've learned that so much. So it's like, all right, something happened. Like, you cannot blame anybody else. You always have to look and say, all right, either what was the structure or process, or did I give clear instructions, or, that fell apart for a reason, but I'm the leader at the top. So, I can't go around blaming everybody else. I've got to look there first. And I think that over the years, lately over the last few years has really taught me a lot. And I'm for sure not perfect. You could ask my employees, but I sure have an amazing group of employees and all different personalities. And that actually is something too that's helped. I used to gravitate towards, because I'm red-yellow, so I gravitated towards the fun, the bubbly, the outgoing. And although I need those in my company, I also need every, color type, or however you want to, categorize people's personalities. And so I've also refined that process and just looking for all different personalities and strengths so that we can be a really well-rounded team. Yeah,
but with me, with real estate, when I first got in, I used to even be more yellow. I'm more red-yellow now, I think, just because you get taken advantage of a few times, you harden a little bit, and you kind of learn to just, okay. But, it was funny because I could always convert the leads when they were a yellow or a red. But I was having the hardest time with the analytical people or the amiable people, right? Mm-hmm, and I wasn't realizing, in real estate, it's so specific that, like, with analytical people, once I learned this, my close rate just doubled, because what happened was I was always wanting to close them. Just like a red, I could be in and out in 10 minutes.
Yeah, because
hey, do you feel like I can sell your house? Yeah, sign the damn contract. Let's go. Like, and he loves me. He's like,
I don't got time. This guy's great.
That's right. With an expressive, I just kept being his buddy till he eventually forgot that he told me no 5 times, and he'll sign the contract. When it comes to, like, though the analytical people, I realized I have to slow my speech down to where I almost feel like I'm talking like an idiot. Because if I'm talking fast, they're going to feel like I'm taking advantage of them. But then I realized they would rather not make a decision than be wrong. So I had to give them till the next day to actually, I'd give them references. They'd always call them, and I'd be like, hey, call these people. And it was great. Like, all of a sudden they loved me. Everyone else was trying to close them on the spot. And I was the one that was giving them that time to make sure they felt good about it. So it's like you said, though, I had to adapt and learn how different behavioral styles want to be treated, and not just gravitate to the ones that, you naturally get along with a little bit easier. But
it's always a learning process. I think till we die, you just keep trying to refine yourself.
It really is such a fun thing to, but it's fun to, like, look back, and I always say, like, you weren't wrong at those times. You're just dealing with the limited information that you had, right? So, like, I look back and just laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was trying so hard, whether it was in work or dating or whatever it was. And you're like, yeah, I screwed up a lot of things. But at the same time, you're like, I don't regret it. I don't feel, I learned from it, and I was trying the best I could at that time.
Yeah.
But, well, so if there's young women that are, listening to this, they're in high school, maybe they're in college, they're trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do in my life? I love, like, her story. I want to be like Leigh. Give some advice to people that are thinking about maybe going into their own business and maybe starting a career for themselves like you did.
Yeah. Well, if it's in our industry, which I think so many young girls see it as glamorous and fun and all those things, and it is. It's incredible. It's glamorous. It's fun. It's all of those things. But my advice would be that if you're starting your own business, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. you have to treat it like a business so that we can elevate our industry and make sure that not 80% of them close their doors. I don't want all of these young women to go through that and then to not be able to be successful. And so treat it like a business. Learn what you can about business. And if your dad is in his own business, have him help teach you. Seek out mentors. And then I think any business you get into, if you have passion for it, I think you're going to figure out how to make it work. And just make sure that you're passionate about it. If you don't love showing up to work at a young age, maybe think about doing something differently. Because I remember, like, from day one of school, it was like the greatest thing ever. And I don't know if that's just my outlook on life too. I do see people that they love everything, and I do love everything, and I love everybody, and I love like almost everything in life. But I do think that, like, find that passion.
I think it's a great advice. And well, last thing I want to ask you is, you get so much done in a day, you're able to find time for all the things that are important for you. Do you have some life hacks, or could you walk us through your schedule, some things that you do to stay on task and to stay as productive as you do?
Yeah, I sure do.
I think it'd be helpful to hear, because I'm going to be taking notes over here myself. But.
Yeah, so we, my husband and I, we wake up most mornings at 5:30. We typically will work and prepare for our day for about an hour. So that means, emails, organizing what has to get done for that day and for that week. And then we will get our workout in from about 6:30 to 7:30. We have a home gym. I like to run a lot. Running for me really gives a lot of clarity, and I get a lot of thoughts and just things kind of worked out in my brain that way. And then from 7:30 to about 8:45 is all of us getting ready, kids waking up, getting ready for school, we're getting ready for work, having breakfast, all those kinds of things. And then kids go to school, mom and dad go to work. We have an amazing nanny that we've had for all the years of our kids' life. So she will then come whichever hours that we need her to, depending on school schedules and whatnot. And so she helps us accomplish some of the things that we need to, whether it's homework or a little bit of laundry or cleaning and those kinds of things, as well as, while she's with the kids. And then after we get home from work, most nights between about 4 and 6, Tyler and I will get home and we'll all start, driving and taking kids to activities and doing homework and, going to all their sports. And we're a highly active family, a highly outdoors family. And our kids have mimicked that, whether I guess they wanted to or not. But so they love to just have fun and be active. So we do all of those things. And then we typically will go to bed between about 10 to 11:30. As our kids get older, it's harder. We don't work as much or finish the things that we need to because they stay up forever. But typically we'll kind of wind down the night and kind of recap the day, which I think is so important to help you get prepped for
you guys do that every
next
day?
Yeah, pretty much for the most part. The things that throw us off are like going on vacation and then coming back. You always have to recoup. Or, like, I broke my foot this year, so you don't work out. Or, like, there's things in life, right? And I think that's really important for people as they hear this, because I think so many people think, like, oh, my gosh, you have this perfect life. Your husband's so great. Your kids are awesome. They all do well in schoolwork. They play all these sports, and you guys both have businesses and all of these things. But we also have the same things as everybody else. Kids that cry, or we get hurt, or business that's so stressful where, like, you're up and you don't sleep and you don't work out for the entire week because you're working till midnight and up at 4 again. And so we have normal things, but I feel like if you can create those habits, you can get right back to them really quickly when life throws you, little curveballs and stuff.
Yeah, I think the way I heard it put one time is, if it feels awkward not to be doing the things you should be doing, then you're in good shape. If it feels awkward to be doing them, like if it's like out of your norm to go to the gym or out of your norm to wake up early, then you've got something to work on, right?
Yeah,
if it kind of throws off your day though, like, oh, I didn't,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think people are going to love this interview. So much to get out of it. If you guys haven't been to Amara Day Spa, take a look at Leigh. I think she looks 10 years younger now than she did when I met her. And so whatever you guys do over there, definitely go and get your hair and skin and everything else that you guys do. Nails, massages,
cool
cryotherapy, cool sculpting. I did that.
Sculpting.
It's helped with my belly, so the cool sculpting is pretty cool. It hurt me a little, but it's like nothing that isn't worth doing.
Yeah. So I've cool sculpted my whole body, but now it's amazing. Yeah. I love it. But yeah, we pretty much do everything in the beauty industry as well as have a full like mini Nordstrom. So we really can cater to everybody, every lifestyle, and every need that men and women and, you know, teenagers need. So
awesome.
Come see us.
You're the best. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, thanks, Leigh.